Hello Primary 5. Let's move to lesson 2 in concept 2, water as a valuable natural resource, and let's start our lesson. Today in our lesson we are going to talk about different water bodies and compare between the type of water and these water bodies, the location and some characters of these water bodies. Firstly, let's start with a river. So our water body or first water body is a river. We know that the type of water in a river is fresh water, or all rivers contain fresh water. The location, we said any river starts from a mountain. Any river starts from a mountain or from a high place, that the water flow from high place to a low place. The characters of a river, and we are going to discuss this part in the second part of the lesson. When a river meets a sea or a large river, we have something that is formed which is called delta, and we are going to talk about this in details. The water body number 2 is a lake, and we know that most of lakes contain fresh water, as we said in the last lesson. The location of lakes, the lakes can be formed in any low-lying areas or low places. And the lake, it's a large water body that is surrounded by land from all directions, and it's formed when the water collects in a low place. Number 3, we have the wetland. Wetland, it's the place of frogs and salamanders. The wetland contain fresh water or salt water. And the wetland, it's a land partially covered with water, so it's a land that contains a little amount of water. And we have two types of wetlands. We have swamps and the ponds. The swamp, it's the same as marsh, they are the same, and the ponds, we can call it bogs. Number 4, we have the estuary. We said if I have a river that meets a sea, this forms in between them an estuary. So the estuary, it's a mixture between salt water that comes from a sea and fresh water that comes from a river. So the type of water in estuary is salt water mixed with fresh water. And we know that estuaries are home to thousands of plants and animals. Number 5, it's groundwater. The groundwater, we know that comes from under the ground, and the groundwater is fresh water. It's the type of water. The location, in the cracks or the opening or the spaces between the underground rocks. And there is more amount of groundwater on earth than the water in rivers and lakes. So we have a large amount of water in the form of glaciers or solid water. Number 2, we have a large amount of groundwater. Number 6, oceans. The oceans, we know that they contain salt water, and the oceans surround all the land or all the continents that we live on. And all the ocean, they are connected together. And we found out that the ocean's floor has mountains, plains, and plateaus. Now let's move to part 2. It's about delta, as I said. So the delta, like the delta in Egypt, it's a triangle-shaped area made of mud and other sediments. Sediments, that means sand and rock, that forms when a river meets a sea or a large river. So when our river Nile meets the Mediterranean Sea, it forms here a triangular shape made of mud and other sediments, and that's called delta. But how is the delta is formed? Firstly, any river starts in the mountain, as I said. It starts as a stream or a small water body. So, because the mountain is an inclined surface, so the water moves fast, and this forms valleys. While the water is moving quickly across the land, it picks up some sediments by the erosion and weathering. And the flow of river, when the flow of river ends, this means the river meets a sea or a large river. So the water starts to slow down, and the sediments are deposited at the river endpoint here, endpoint of the river. So that's the deposition of sediments and mud. This forms a delta. And we have on the earth, we said that we have only 3% of water on earth is fresh water, And more than 10% of world's animal species live only in the freshwater habitat. Yeah, it's a large amount of animal types or animal species. So the poor quality of fresh water can lead to the death of thousands of living organisms every day that live in the fresh water, and also that causes the extinction of some species such as some fish and amphibians. That's all for the lesson. Let's move to the questions. And worksheet 2. Firstly, choose the correct answer. Delta is formed when the speed of water increases, the speed of water decreases, the amount of river's water decreases, or the river's water dries up. Excellent. When the speed of water decreases at the end or the end point of the river. Number 2, at the end of River Nile Delta, there is an, or what? Between Nile River and the Mediterranean Sea. Very good. The River Nile, it contains fresh water. When it meets a sea or a salty water inside the Mediterranean Sea, this forms an estuary. Number 3, what are formed when water collects in a low-lying areas? We say the low places, when the low places collects a large amount of water, this forms lakes. Excellent. Number 4, among or between kinds of wetlands are, very good, marshes and bogs, or swamps and ponds. That's all for this lesson, and thank you for listening.